Wrestling Audio Revolution presents The Run-In Show with your hosts, Commissioner Sean Cunningham and Shotgun Shan.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is show number 4. It's The Run-In Show, and we're so happy to have you back here with us. It's October, so many great things going on in October, and lots of wrestling too. We're going to be looking at the past few weeks, what's happened during the great brand split pay-per-views, and a lot of other really great information we're going to be getting through. But let me ask you this, kids. Are you like me? Are you sick as a dog? Are you really that bad? Because I'll tell you, I'm worse. My throat is just about dead, but hopefully we're going to make it through the show. It'll add a little bit of suspense to it, I guess, and we'll see how things go. Generally, I go by the name Shotgun Shan, but today it will be Scratchy Shan and possibly Squeaky Shan if my voice deteriorates. But for now, we're ready to launch into another huge a recap of what's been going on in the wrestling world. We're going to be covering a lot of really cool things. We have a celebrity guest coming in, and we'll be going back to Kayfabe or Kayfake, our most popular segment, where Sean has really become, I think, a master. And I need to introduce him right now. We need to bring him out. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a force of nature. It is my compatriot, the Commissioner, Sean Cunningham. Come on, Sean.
How are you, sir?
Well, you know what? I'm doing all right. I don't sound good, but I'm okay.
We'll get through. We'll soldier through like good radio broadcasters.
Truly. I mean, the best have had to deal with this, so at least I can pull it off. I'm sure at least I can put forth a good effort. I was thinking before the show started, I thought, well, why don't we just do the whole thing in subtitles? And then I remembered which song. So that's not going to work.
If we graduate to a video show, we'll deal with that. Let me get a camera hooked up here. We'll figure that out next time round.
You never know. But listen, buddy, so much going on. I mean, every time we get together, it seems like they stepped it up a little bit, and we've got a lot to talk about. But one thing that I think we'll deal with this chronologically, but also I think just out of the sheer uniqueness of it, we have got an official Cruiserweight champion and Cruiserweight division on WWE programming now. Did you watch the Cruiserweight Classic, Sean?
Of course I did.
I asked that knowing of course you did. But,
Yes, we did. We spent a lot of time off the air talking about how wonderful this tournament was, and we all have the same level of skepticism as you move it on to the regular WWE brand programming and take it away from its own separate entity.
Yeah.
I think we all have that level of nerves about it.
And we'll talk about that in a second, because you know what? That's a really good point. But just before we get there, we did, a couple weeks ago, get to see the semifinals and the finals of the Cruiserweight Classic. And what were your thoughts about that show in general? I mean, we know, and we'll say right now, TJ Perkins came out as champ, and we'll deal with how he got there. But what were your feelings about that show overall? What did you see?
I really liked the show. I thought the matches were done really well. It was interesting to note that the 3 of the 4 guys that they had put in the semifinals of the tournament, I guess, were not signed to WWE deals or were not available to do WWE television.
Now, do you think that was
in the case of Metallic?
Was that a complete oversight on their part, or do you think that they just kind of it turned out that way? By the time they got to the end, they couldn't get these guys to sign. What do you think happened?
I think they put a lot of effort into getting Sabre Jr. and Kota Ibushi to sign, and those were 2 guys that just didn't seem to want to do full-time WWE schedules. Metallic, I think, was a different entity. Metallic signed, but he's got to finish out his previous dates.
Yeah,
like there's a bit of a crossover.
For sure.
So I understand that.
What kind of a blow is it to them to not get Sabre and to not get Ibushi?
I don't think that hurts them as much as everybody originally thought, because I think we'll still see Kota Ibushi from time to time. I just don't think it'll be consistent. I think that'll make him a different type of performer, and I think that's fine too.
Yeah, I think maybe as a special attraction, he certainly got over with the crowd, and his match with Perkins was, I thought, stellar.
So good. And so good on TJ Perkins for being able to, not to say that he's not capable of it, but to step up to the level of his opponent every single week.
Yeah, Ibushi's a legend. He really is, a different kind of legend. I mean, this is a guy who can really deliver something unique, a unique in-ring experience. And yeah, you know what? I did not see Perkins getting by Ibushi in my original predictions, although I do remember saying I could see Perkins doing it. But I really thought it was kind of it was kind of hands down going to be Ibushi and Metallic in the finals, and that didn't come to pass.
Well, we should share with the listeners the interesting discussion we had off air about, and something that Luke and I never talk about. Luke and I are very stubborn. Your brother and I, Luke, forced we get together and have chats off air, and you thought about the idea of an English-speaking champion just for the sake of the promo.
Yeah.
And it's never something that we talk about.
Well, and we did get into a rather heated debate, Luke Force and I, and I think maybe we got kind of carried away with it, but I was really adamant about the fact that if WWE was going to kickstart a new cruiserweight division, if they were going to present the cruiserweights to an audience, a mixed audience, an audience that had fond memories of the cruiserweights from WCW, but then another whole segment of the audience that had never seen cruiserweights, at least under that name, they were going to want to present somebody marketable. And by marketable, I mean someone that could communicate in a promo. Because as I pointed out, the WWE product has changed so much now that you cannot simply be a great wrestler in the ring and get away with it anymore. You can still put on those great matches and they'll give you the opportunities, but to rise to the top, they now expect you to be able to do social media, to be used throughout the network on their programming. And frankly, if you cannot speak English and you need to go through a translator, I really think that hurts you. I don't think that it means that the competitor isn't deserving, but I think the mindset of WWE is that anyone they're going to spend the time on needs to be able to feed all these other mediums. And what are your thoughts on that, Sean?
Well, when I look back on it, it makes some sense. That being said, if you look at NXT, and this is the argument that I know we had, if you look at the state of NXT right now, their male champion is Shinsuke Nakamura, who speaks little English, and their women's champion is Asuka, who speaks none.
Yeah, except for her phonetic.
So,
yeah, I get it. But the point too that I tried to make is that they've at least insisted with those people that they be able to speak a little bit of English. So I think I would be surprised if Asuka rises to the top of the main roster women's division. And I don't mean necessarily just becoming champion, but becoming a fixture where they're going to focus on her without her being able to communicate at another level. And it's not because I don't think she deserves it, but I think they want someone who can do more.
Well, and I agree, and I think eventually they will work on teaching her English, and I've understood that that's the plan. But the other thing that WWE is very focused on right now, to get a little bit sidetracked for a minute, is the market in Asia.
Yeah.
They want to get bigger into Asia, and I think Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura are that door to get them in.
And the returning Hideo Itami.
Yes, as well, who has much better English.
Yeah.
In comparison to those two we previously mentioned. But I think all of those guys getting pushes to the main roster eventually, very soon, to make headway into that Asian, Japanese, Chinese market is very important to them right now.
Yeah, I can see it too. So as the Cruiserweight Classic played out, we had Perkins moving forward into the finals. Were you surprised that Metallic beat Sabre?
A little bit, only because I really believed that WWE was invested in Sabre, and I honestly thought up until I heard that Sabre hadn't signed that he was signed.
Yeah.
So that to me was a bit of a shock, and I really thought they were going to put the whole Cruiserweight division on the back of Zack Sabre, but they didn't.
And I wonder if they wanted to.
I really think they did. If you think about the way he was presented in his first three matches, I think that was what they wanted to do.
I can't disagree with you.
And they couldn't get pen to paper, unfortunately.
Yeah. I won't disagree with you there, Sean. I think that was probably their first choice. The finals end up being Perkins and Metallic. What did you think of the finals?
I thought the final match was so good because it incorporated a couple different styles of wrestling. You had the very lucha libre style, and Perkins was able to do that. And then once Perkins was able to take control of it, he made it very ground-based and submission-based. And I thought that was good, and it was consistent for the story that they were trying to tell through
a
3-month tournament, which the storytelling impressed me on a huge level during this tournament.
I hope that they bookmarked that show and that whole presentation and come back to it, because I think it's a format that they kind of laid out for this that would work for other things, but it was really, really quite extraordinary that they could keep your attention for that long. Build that sense of importance around every week meaning something. That's, to me, I think that was the huge accomplishment, even up and above what they showed in the ring.
Absolutely. And the other thing I noticed, too, I didn't notice it on weeks of Raw previously, but I noticed that during the Cruiserweight matches, they somehow got new ropes and a different ring mat out on a live show, and that the ring mat was purple, or the ropes were purple during the Cruiserweight matches.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I'm fond of it, but, I like the fact that they're distinguishing it. I just wonder if it's going to get old real quick. But
it may, but I just like the fact that you're being consistent.
Mm-hmm. Or if they're going to be consistent, I'm all for it. If they don't abandon it, I'm cool with it. Anyway, regardless, of the show itself, those cruiserweights and all those people that were showcased, the majority of them anyway, that signed, showed up on Raw shortly thereafter. What do you think about the integration of the cruiserweights into the Raw programming? How do you think it was handled?
I didn't necessarily like the fatal 5 or 6 way match at the beginning, but as far as the way they're being integrated now, I think is really good. Yeah. They're being given time to have their matches, and it's not taking away from anything else.
I would go so far as to say that now that they've at least worked out the kinks after the first couple of weeks of presenting the cruiserweights, that it's some of my favorite TV that's on the Raw programming now. I think that they're putting together some good combinations of guys, showcasing guys that really deserve it, and I'm really liking the Perkins and Kendrick feud. Just because I didn't know if Kendrick was going to get the focus that he deserved. What do you think of Kendrick so far?
I really like his stuff, and I also think he's focused. The focus is on him because he, to WWE at least, is a known commodity. He was there years and years ago, 10 years ago, when he was doing the running through the crowd naked, ripping off the Adidas commercial years ago. If anybody go look up naked soccer guy running in the Adidas commercial, it's Brian Kendrick. They ripped it off on SmackDown 1 week. Actually, for a couple weeks, now that I think about it. But he, to them, is a known commodity. Trained Eva Marie. They had it all over Total Divas. So it's smart on their part to begin the division with somebody that some of the fans who may not know who any of these cruiserweight guys are, they may not remember who Brian Kendrick is. I think that's very smart.
And with the change they've made to his character, with the bit of a heel turn that's come up, he really does seem like a strong heel presence, which they didn't really have in the Cruisers. With the guys that they'd featured, they were all guys you kind of really liked. And as much as I like Kendrick, he really is playing the heel now against the sort of lily white face of T.J. Perkins. Do you think Perkins is too corny? Do you think he's too much of a Ricky Steamboat? And no offense to Ricky Steamboat. I'm just saying.
But that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see if the crowd turns on it eventually. I figured if a crowd was going to turn, it might be his home crowd in LA, and they didn't turn. So if they're not going to turn, maybe nobody turns. If eventually they turn, I'm sure they can change it. The signing that I know happened that I'm looking forward to is one of our favorite. Jack Gallagher signed.
Oh, Jack Gallagher.
So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that when he debuts either on NXT or on Raw.
Me too, because the one thing about the Cruiserweight Classic that I was always a little let down by is that I only got to see Gallagher go through 2 matches. I really wanted to see more. I loved him. My kids loved him. My wife loved him. And as I said, they're not regular wrestling watchers, but they thought he was fantastic. So
he was great.
Got a great personality, a built-in character. I mean, you can't do better than that.
No.
All right, Sean. Well, look, we're going to move along and get into some of the other wrestling news. But before we do, I have got another segment of Celebrity Wrestling Fan. That's right, folks. We pick someone a celebrity that you didn't know was a wrestling fan. We bring them out for a little interview. This week we have a very controversial guest. I can't say that I'm overly pleased that he's here, but he's bought his way into the spot. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring out Donald Trump. Welcome to the program, Mr. Trump.
Thank you.
Given the tone of your presidential campaign, I think it's best if we just avoid politics altogether and we just talk about wrestling.
Absolutely.
Now, I think most wrestling fans know that you are friends with the McMahons.
Hey, no, you're wrong about that.
Really? Because that's really not what we've been led to believe. I mean, I think...
They're terrible people. I think they're stupid.
Well, I thought you were good friends with Vince.
One of the great sleazebags of our time.
But what about Linda?
You take a look at her, she's a slob. She talks like a truck driver. These people make Saddam Hussein look like a choir boy.
Okay, now that's completely unfounded, and quite frankly, that's inappropriate.
Now get out of here.
Now, calm down, Trump. We're not putting up with any more of that.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Hold on.
Get out of
Damn
here.
it, Trump, calm down.
Go home to mommy.
Hold on, whoa.
Get him out of here.
Somebody grab
Go
him.
home to mommy.
Trump, you're going to fall off the stage.
Go home to mommy.
Trump!
Can somebody get him? Can somebody get him a wheelchair or something? Put him on a stretcher? Good Lord. What a f***ing asshole.
What the hell did you think of that, Sean? That was just bizarre. What is going on with this guy?
And he could run the United States of America in a few months?
It's kind of like if you live in a duplex and you're on the top floor and a bunch of drunk, crazy hillbillies move in downstairs. That's what it would be like.
Yeah.
We'd have to I don't know.
We'd have to relocate.
We have to relocate the whole country, or build a wall.
Yeah, we'll pay for that wall.
Yeah, I will put out money to pay for that wall. That will be fun. Anyway, no offense to our American fans, we absolutely love you.
Well, we love the American fans. We just don't want your choice.
Yeah, be careful, folks, on voting day, please. Moving right along, Sean, we've got so much going on right now. We've got to delve into our first real official taste of what the split brand pay-per-views are going to be. It's been quite a long time since we've seen split brand pay-per-views, haven't we, Sean?
It's been, you know what, I want to say maybe 12 or 13 years, and I could be wrong on that. But they look very different now than they did back in the early 2000s.
They certainly do. And we're going to get into them. Well, we'll deal with those chronologically as well. I think we'll start off with WWE Backlash. Before we even talk about how we felt about the show overall, I know you and I were probably pretty happy with the opening match, which was the women's title six-pack challenge. That was the opener, wasn't it?
It was the opener. And I was a little disappointed it was the opener, but also I think the first brand pay-per-view had a couple kinks in it, and we'll talk about that as we go along.
Yeah.
I was really happy with the finish of the match. I felt the match went a little long in the teeth. It went close to 30 minutes.
Yeah. And that might have made the match a little long, but I thought it was encouraging that they were willing to give the girls that much time. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and I agree. I just wish they could have booked the match in a different way, though. I have no problem with the 30 minutes if you do something like spacing out your eliminations.
Yeah, and that is one thing that they did not do, is it?
No. They basically bulleted the first 4 or 5 eliminations, one after the other, in about a 2.5 minute span in getting a match.
Yeah. And how long was it before we saw our first elimination?
I want to say somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes.
Yeah, I would think that too. I would think somewhere in around the 17-minute mark. And that is pretty crazy for an elimination match to keep the fans entertained. Were you still glued to this match, Sean, or did your attention waver?
My attention didn't waver, but I started to look at the clock and be like, there's no elimination yet at 10 or 12 minutes. And I'm like, what are they going to do? How long is this thing going to go? And
I think really, I mean, a couple of the women that were in this match really were making their pay-per-view debut, their real kind of stepped up to the front debut. Alexa Bliss and Carmella really, I thought, made a good accounting of themselves. It's easy to get lost in a match like that, and I thought both of them stood out.
Absolutely they did. I will say this. Have you noticed that Alexa Bliss is channeling Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad with her hair?
You can't go wrong really with that. I mean, the movie wasn't great, but I mean the character, it's certainly, I think it works for her. I like Alexa Bliss. I like the fact that she's so tiny but is still kind of a nasty heel. There's something kind of cool about that.
I haven't seen the movie yet, meaning to, but I went down to the movie set while they were filming.
Really?
They actually shot it like 5 minutes away from here, where I live. So, I went down and saw the Batmobile when they were filming a couple of summers ago. So I always have a bias to that movie, no matter how bad it is when I finally see it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, buddy.
No.
But at the end of this six-pack challenge, I think one of our favorite female wrestlers, Becky Lynch, comes out as champion. What do you think of Becky as champion?
I really like it because I felt like of the 6 women in the match, that she clearly has the most upside, the most reaction with the fans.
She has the most depth, really. She's someone they can build that division around and use more than just her in-ring ability because she's so good on the mic and so well-defined as a character. I think she was the right choice. I can't see anyone else to start off the division. And again, like they did with the Cruiserweight division, they want to start off with somebody that the fans can really relate to. And then, down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if Carmella wins the title or someone else. But I think starting off with Becky really gives you someone to build around. And she's not too corny either. I mean, she's a great wrestler, and she's fun.
No, and it's one thing I do notice, especially with the women, that the emphasis is not necessarily on the women who have been on WWE roster for a long time,
Yeah.
but it's on that group of 4 or 5 of them, 6 of them, now I think about it, that all came from NXT in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I agree.
And there really is a distinct divide there. That those guys, those 6 girls, Charlotte, Dana, Sasha Banks, Becky, Carmella, are all being really heavily focused on.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing because, I mean, it certainly means that WWE is putting the right foot forward here as far as featuring new talent and realizing that they have to. You know, they have to build these characters, and doing it right away, I think, is a great idea. And it opens up that division to so many possibilities now. I really like the SmackDown Women's division. I think they've got a lot of good talent there. Even like Naomi, who had been lost in the shuffle before, I think is stepping up a little bit.
Yeah, I think she needs to be given more ring time too.
I think she does.
She's really talented.
She is. She's a very talented person. I do enjoy her in the ring. Moving on from there, we did have the tag tournament finals. Were you shocked that were you shocked at who won this whole thing?
No, because that's the way they positioned it. Like, I didn't think you were going to go for months and months and months with Heath Slater being the guy that was undrafted, the guy that we left in the room when they turned the lights off, you know?
Yeah.
When they did this whole story about the trailer and his wife and his 8,000 kids and the whole to-do, I'm like, wow, you built a character in the space of 2 weeks. That's impressive.
And good for Heath Slater. You know what? Because I always think that Heath had a bit more going on than people gave him credit for, at least as a character and as an on-air personality. So good for him. I'm a little shocked they still have the belts. I expected them to drop it right away.
Yeah, I did too.
And I don't know that they're going to hold it too much longer. But, you know, good for Heath. I thought it was a funny story. They've played it out. They can always return to these things that they've set up for him if they need to rejuvenate the character down the road. But good for Heath.
Oh, and also the Uso heel turn.
Yeah, the Uso heel turn.
What do you think of that?
Well, the Usos were getting kind of flat. The Usos really are an in-ring team. Outside of the ring, as much as the guys have personalities, they don't have that much of a character. So I think turning them heel is good, but I think they need to be more heel than that. I think they need to be vicious, nasty, and get a little bit more promo time to explain what's going on. What do you think of them as heels?
I agree with most of it. I did like how much their in-ring, like the way they even wrestled the match, changed from one day they were baby faces and then the next day they were heels, and the match was totally different.
Yeah.
That was something that detail oriented. I was so happy to see.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that, Sean. I will say, yeah, they've certainly put the effort into building the character around their style, and I'm all right with that. How long do you think until American Alpha gets the belts?
Depends. I think it'll be soon, but I think they want to build to it because they know that they know that team is over, and they know they could do a big build, and I wouldn't be surprised if they wait till something like January.
Yeah, until the Rumble, or they could wait till the Rumble.
Rumble or right before Christmas at Roadblock or whichever one of those pay-per-views is SmackDown branded. My brain is getting crossed up because they added extra shows, which when it's not like a dual month like Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, it's which show belongs to which brand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to get confusing real quick.
Yeah, exactly. I'm finding that now too. I'm like, what? There's another show already? They start promoting the next one and it's in 2 weeks, and I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? And I think, but I think you're right. I think down the road, I think they're going to build this division around American Alpha. I think they're the right team, and I think they can afford to hold off for a little bit and have those guys work their way. They seem to have slowed it down a little bit already, and I don't think that they'll be the ones taking it from Slater and Rhino. I think that the Usos will be, hopefully get time to establish themselves as a solid heel champion before Alpha takes it.
Well, you got to remember too, now you have split rosters. You can't rush through any of these stories now.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to let these things go a little bit.
The pacing has had to change, and I think that at least in these first few weeks, and they've done not too bad of a job with that. Another thing to talk about the show that was probably the highlight of the night was the Ambrose and Styles match for the WWE Championship. What did you think?
Such a good match.
It was a good match, and it was Styles' coming out party as far as being a champion in WWE, but I thought Dean Ambrose really is starting to show his diversity now we always knew it was there, but he's a really fun guy to watch.
He knows how to work with anybody, and that's a talent that not every guy has.
Yeah.
So for him to be able to put out that kind of match with AJ, and that's not a knock on AJ because AJ's a really talented guy and can adapt as well.
Yeah.
But for both those guys to go and have that match, and then have that finish and have the kick low with the Styles Class finish at the end, I was like, this is so good. And then they did the legacy building. The only thing I question is, are you rushing to the AJ program too quickly?
Yeah, I do wonder. I also am a little concerned, or I shouldn't say that. I was a little concerned that Dean was being swept off the street and into the gutter pretty quickly after the AJ program. But, and we'll get into sort of this now as we move forward with the SmackDown TV news, he really is holding his own with a returning John Cena. How have you felt about this sort of Ambrose-Cena feud with Styles in the mix as well?
I really feel bad because to me it very much sounds like Ambrose versus Cena and Styles is just there. That's the way it's been presented, and I understand why all three guys are coming out as being pissed off and doing their things on Talking Smack, which we haven't really touched on their after show, where they get to do these essentially longer promos.
Yeah.
And Dean has done an excellent job when he's appeared. John Cena has always done a really good job, and AJ was really good on that show too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I look at the program and I'm like, this is your champion, and he's kind of being pushed to the side. This, to me, is more it's not will AJ retain, it's which guy's going to beat AJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have a feeling it's going to be neither based on some other things that I've read as well.
Yes, well, I think that you're right. You want to get into that?
I have heard, and I don't have confirmation on this, that both Dean and Cena are going off to do, I don't know whether it's a movie project together or going off to do two separate other projects.
Well, it could be interesting. That roster's already thin, and we also have to talk about the Miz and Dolph Ziggler program, which could result in Ziggler being gone too in the upcoming match that they have set. Miz is putting his title on the line against Ziggler's career, and I've heard rumblings that Ziggler's going to lose and sort of take on a different role within WWE. Have you heard that?
I've heard the same thing. Talk of an agent.
My goodness, if you lose Ambrose, Cena, and Ziggler all at the same time, what happens?
You better sign some other guys, because the other thing I will point out about that Backlash show, that show ended early.
Yeah.
It ended before 10:45.
It ended before, even with that really, really long opener.
Yes.
So that's got to tell you something. But who do you move up that's on the roster now?
I don't know. That's the thing.
You're going to have to start bringing people up from NXT pretty quickly. I'm assuming Joe's going to SmackDown when he finishes with Nakamura. Would you?
Yeah, but I do too. But that's probably not happening until November.
Yeah.
You got to move somebody up now.
I agree.
Like, that's the issue. I hope maybe you sign some free agents. I know they've been pushing Kurt Hawkins. They had Shelton signed, but he's not medically cleared. I don't know who else you can grab. I don't know what the other rumblings in the news are. I heard one piece of rumbling, but that's now changed, about WWE sniffing around TNA, and I thought that would help the roster.
Yeah.
But now that deal looks very different than was originally reported last week, about WWE wanting to buy the entire company, and now they would just want the video library.
Yeah. I do. And I know that I read that Dixie had said flat out she wasn't going to sell to them. I don't know how much water that holds, but, I think it would be not a bad thing to take TNA and their top talent and bring them in, because, I mean, there are some guys there. Yeah. There are some guys there that would fit really nicely into the SmackDown roster.
Broken Mallory.
Yeah. And EC3 and there's a few other guys that I think would be really.
But as we record this, the news is very different. It looks like Billy Corrigan, who has been named president of Impact Ventures, is looking to buy the company but sell the library to raise capital and rebrand the company.
Well, I don't think that's a bad idea. What do you think of that?
I don't think it is either, but if you're basically wiping out the history by selling it to the competition,
yeah.
I've never seen that done before. So how do you do that?
Well, they're in pretty dire straits.
Yeah.
So I think that would be at least a legitimate way to stay afloat in one form or another. And I don't think changing the brand and becoming something completely different is a bad idea. TNA has kind of a stink to it now, and no offense to them, but I mean, they've just been struggling for so long. I don't think that reworking it would be a bad idea.
But it's weird that basically what they're doing, if they sell the library to WWE, is you're saying you have a history, but you can't acknowledge it on your television.
It's true.
So you're starting from, like, zero.
Yeah.
You know, I've never seen that before.
Yeah. I don't know how it would play out. But, I mean, anything can happen now with TNA. How many years have we been saying TNA is going under, and they're still around? So give them credit for that.
Yeah, true enough. TNA's been around for 14 years now.
Yeah.
I think. And they're still kind of hanging on by a thread, but they've exhausted every revenue stream they have. So I understand why they're out of money.
Yeah. I'm shocked that they're still going. But good for them for keeping their heads up, and I hope that something turns out, because you hate to see those many guys out of work or not getting paid. So
I have a feeling something will happen. It's just how much involvement will Vince and WWE have in that case, and if you could get contracts, which I realize you may want, but a lot of guys who just signed there, see Cody Rhodes, don't necessarily work for WWE right now.
Yeah, I know. It could be a bit sticky, but I guess we'll see how it shakes out. Going forward on SmackDown as well, we've got Becky and Alexa Bliss doing a program. I don't think Alexa's going to win, but do you think this is a good feud for Becky?
I think it's a good feud for Becky because it's somebody that can wrestle the pace that she's used to wrestling, somebody that she's worked with in NXT, I imagine, down in the Performance Center. So you're building new stars.
Yeah.
But like I said before, with the women's division, I noticed a divide, and I'm not sure really all that much cohesion in that locker room on either brand.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that what they're doing here, putting Becky and Alexa together, I think it keeps the focus on the sort of new, and we're not slipping back into the old, same old, because they really want things to seem new and impressive. But yeah, I don't know how it's going to play.
But don't you have to integrate some of those talents that aren't that old, like somebody like we talked about, a Naomi or a Natalia who are gifted enough to work it and be fine? I'm not necessarily saying you have to go to the Bellas, but
yeah, I think you will, but you can't do Natty right away because she's just been through that feud, and so like you can revisit it. But I think giving a good safe feud for Becky for the first one with Alexa Bliss is a good idea. And then, yes, bring in Natty and bring in Naomi for sure, too.
Yeah.
Moving right along, we've got to go to the other side of this split brand pay-per-view, and we will be taking a look at WWE Clash of Champions, which is the Raw branded show. This show seemed a little more stacked, and it seemed a little more filled out. I'm not going to necessarily say that it was better, but they had some stuff going on there that had benefited from the long-term planning on Raw. First off, let's talk about it. The best of 7 finals between Sheamus and Cesaro. I'm not sure everyone was happy with the way it ended. What did you think about that match, Sean?
I wasn't real happy with the way the match ended, and then in turn, I wasn't real happy with the way the series ended.
Yeah, well, do you think it's over? Because for those of you who haven't watched, the finals of the best of 7 was inconclusive, came out as a draw. And then Mick Foley put Sheamus and Cesaro together as a tag team, and they're functioning as sort of a odd couple, two guys that hate each other tag team. My thought is they're going to drag it out and then eventually demand that they have one match to decide who's the best. But I think they're going to try to make it last as long as they can. Sorry, go ahead.
The tag team thing is so bad, though.
Yeah.
The tag team thing, because it's been done before, tag partners who hate each other yet still win. See Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit. Check your history books. But I'm like, these two guys do better as guys who are fighting each other, not necessarily teaming together.
And you know the thing, too, is, and no offense to Sheamus, I feel like it's kind of dragging Cesaro down.
Yes.
You know, he doesn't really need to be saddled with Sheamus for that long. No. That being said, though, I think Sheamus has put on some of the best matches of the last few years of his career just with these matches with Cesaro. So it hasn't been bad for him. No,
not at all. But I'm just like, this feud is now dragged out for... So, again, I understand you need longer feuds. But if you said you're going to give one of them a title match at the end of the opportunity, then give them a title match on Raw. Get a new opponent out there for Kevin Owens, instead of maybe going back to Seth 2 or 3 times, which is clearly what they're doing, but that's a different discussion.
We'll get to that in a moment, yeah.
We'll get to that.
One thing I will say, if Cesaro keeps going at the rate he's going, his entire body's going to be covered in tape.
Yes. Very true.
Seems to be growing. I'm not sure what's happening there.
The what is it? The kinesiology tape, or I forget what it's called. It is literally almost all over him now.
Yeah. Which I think it's cool and it's great for his signature, but it also makes him look like he's broken. So I don't know if that's the best way. One of your big, strong, tough guys. Another match to talk about here: Roman Reigns and Rusev for the U.S. title. I was curious going into this, Sean, because obviously the Roman Reigns as world champion experiment failed badly. When he started fighting Rusev, the fans seemed to be giving him a break because, as I've said all along, I don't think the fans hate Roman. They hate what they've done with him. And in this match, Roman ends up beating Rusev, and I'm not sure that the fan reaction was what they were hoping for there either. What did you think, Sean?
Here's the thing. The match itself was great. I really enjoyed the match itself. The crowd reaction, I don't know how you do anything to resurrect Roman. I don't know if you can.
As a face, no, you can't.
As a babyface, you cannot. They keep trying.
I don't know why.
Either that or just accept the split reaction and ignore it.
Yeah.
Which is what seems to be what they're trying to do now.
But I don't think that really is making the most out of what you're getting. Like I've said all along, if Roman gets booed, by God, that's awesome. You know how many heels really want heat?
Yeah.
Use it, Use it.
But they're determined not to.
Which makes no sense to me. And you know what? I'll say this. Rusev took a huge step up in this feud. I love Rusev.
Yeah, I do too.
I always liked him, but his personality was always a bit lacking, and I don't know if he wasn't... I don't know his history to know if his English wasn't very good at the beginning and it's only gotten better, or he just didn't talk a lot at the beginning. But
I think he was told not to talk.
I think you're right. I think they wanted Lana to be the mouthpiece. But now, I find Rusev very entertaining to watch. And a fantastic wrestler in the ring. And physically, you don't have a guy with a build like Rusev in WWE. And there's no one else that compares to him. He's sort of like, he's short and wide, super strong, and he's just kind of a spectacle. So good for Rusev. I don't know where Roman goes after this. Generally you'd have the U.S. title as your warm-up to kind of court the fans for your world title reign.
But they've done that backwards.
They've had to do it backwards. I don't know.
But I made the point the night that Roman took over. If you had done this to begin with, you might be in a better spot with Roman.
Yeah, I think you're right.
John Cena.
I think you're right, but I still don't think Roman is interesting enough for the fans to really love him.
No, I agree, yeah. but that's largely because they've tarnished it.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I still don't think that his promo and his character is very good. I don't think he's very interesting, but I think they could have done better. I do think that for Roman Reigns, the only way this is going to work is to turn him heel. Look at his cousin. That's how it worked for Rock.
Well, but we've been saying this for how long now?
I agree.
And at this point, I understand, like, Luke, before he left on to enjoy the life as a new father, tried to ban Roman Reigns' discussion program.
I agree, and you know what? I think that's still a good idea.
That would be an idea.
Roman Reigns will never turn heel. Let's say it right now. Never turn heel.
Turn heel.
He'll be released before he turns heel.
Yes.
Moving on, the Universal title match between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. I think that this was for Kevin Owens to step up and do his first real pay-per-view match. We keep calling them pay-per-views. I know I'm not supposed to, but his first big feature match against Seth Rollins, I think, was a great accomplishment. I really enjoyed the match.
Yeah.
What did you think of it overall, Sean?
Really liked the match. Clearly, these two guys, A, are friends outside of the ring. B, have worked together many, many, many times. And it showed in that match. The timing was wonderful. Everything worked out. There was nothing sloppy about it until the ref bump and everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket. But
what did you think of the finish?
I was like, okay, I understand what you're doing. I don't completely buy Seth as a babyface, but you're trying.
Seth is not the right kind of babyface yet, and I don't know if they're just moving him really slow. But right now he's awful whiny, and I'm not sure that endears him to the fans.
Well, but I think at some point, Seth is not going to... I don't believe that Seth is going to get that title, though. Seth is getting a match with Triple H at some point down the road, because that's what they keep teasing.
And I don't think you need to put the belt back on Seth yet. I really don't. I think he had his time, and you need to let the fans miss him for a while, because, as a heel, he was a great heel champion, but he was, again, kind of a whiny champion. He wasn't the guy you rally behind. So, let's see what they do there. Seth getting some banged up ribs, which is kind of ironic considering all the people he's hurt recently.
Yes.
Do we know how legit was that injury? Do you know how long he was legitimately supposed to be out for?
I think the idea is that he was supposed to be out for a couple of weeks, and they don't really know, and they're just booking around it.
Yeah.
I get the vibe they don't know when he's going to be cleared to wrestle a match. They're hoping it's at the end of the month.
Yeah, I would think that they would be.
Because they're going to do that match in a cell. I don't know about that.
that sounds a bit risky, but you know what? If they weren't broken, if he's just banged up and hurt, you know, he could still pull it off. And I think
you could book around it.
You could book around it, yeah. And that's the one thing in the cell. They could do a lot of crazy spots with Owens getting pounded against the cell and, you know, still coming back to win, and give Rollins a little break.
Just to mention it quickly, the other match they've booked for the cell that I know about right now is Roman and Rusev, and that could be fun.
That could be fun. I think Rusev in the cell is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I do too. And Roman in the cell, the last time Roman was in the cell was with Bray Wyatt.
That match was certainly good. I agree with you. And so I am looking forward to that. Listen, we've got the Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho partnership to talk about. We've talked about it a bit in the past. I'm loving these two guys together. What are you thinking about that?
So much entertainment value in that. So much entertainment value. I understand why they got them with New Day this week. Not sure why they've gone away from Anderson and Gallows so much.
Anderson and Gallows have kind of slipped a bit, haven't they?
They have.
I was shocked that New Day got through and hit their milestone as what was the
400 days.
Yeah, 400-day milestone. I really thought they were going to put it on Anderson and Gallows. I don't know if they're holding off on Anderson and Gallows or they just don't see it. As far as
I think they got cold.
I think they got cold, and I think the problem too is that New Day, as much as we've discussed that they're getting a little stale, are still huge with the fans, and maybe they don't want to mess with that. You know?
And I noticed that this week on commentary, with they had celebrities during the New Day versus Jericho match, and they actually referenced the Demolition title reign.
Yeah.
The longest one in history.
And how long was that?
479 days, I believe.
So they got a few more months.
They're getting close.
They're getting close. I
wonder if they're going to go there.
I wouldn't mind if they do. I got no problem with that. But
I think they are.
They need to give them some really good teams to face, though.
Well, and that's why I think Jericho was fine.
Yeah, Jericho would be great. But Owens is going to be wrapped up with the world title. But I'm wondering if this Sheamus and Cesaro thing will continue and get all the way to a feud with New Day, which I think would be fun too. Both those guys would be fun.
That match would be awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's going on. We're talking about the New Day milestone. Another really important thing that happened on Raw TV: Sasha Banks regains the women's title. Did you see it coming?
Yeah, I did. I don't really ever believe they wanted to take it off of her to begin with.
Yeah.
I think she got hurt and they got nervous about the injury and they had to do something. And I think it's interesting that they did it in a big market in Los Angeles where it's considered to be a big deal. The only problem with Sasha winning that title belt is, and we've talked about this before, we're talking thinness of the rosters and such, you don't really have anybody else for her to fight.
Yeah, unless you put her with Bayley, which I think is a bit too soon.
But I think they're going to do it anyway.
I think they're going to do it anyway. I'm thinking that Charlotte's going to get a few matches. I'd heard rumblings about doing Sasha and Charlotte in a cage or in the cell, but I mean that would be unheard of.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I'd heard.
I've never seen it. They've never done a women's match in the cell.
I think the women's match in the cell would be, you put those two together in a cell, and I think you'd see something special.
I agree. I wonder about Sasha belt.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the cell.
Yeah, I think they'd have to book it. They'd have to be careful. They'd have to take their time. But, you know, that's moving forward. Sasha as champion, I think, was the plan, and I'm glad that they've gotten back to it. So good for them. And I think that's really where we're up to speed now on the Raw side of the pay-per-view spectrum.
Yeah.
The news. There's lots of good stuff going on there, and overall, what are your feelings of Kevin Owens as champion?
I like it. I do think Jericho to a point adds something to it, but Jericho also takes away some of the luster of it being Kevin Owens as the guy a little bit because Jericho's always there. Yeah. They did do a little subtle tease this week of Jericho versus Owens.
I'd hate to see them split.
I hear that. I hear rumblings that's being rumored for November.
Oh, that soon?
Well, they're here in Toronto.
But I would be sad to see those two split up because thus far they have been hilarious. Well, Sean, we've covered the news, and I'm looking down here at my call sheet, and I think it might just be time for another episode of everyone's favorite wrestling trivia game, Kayfabe or Kayfake. Let's roll it out, baby. So this is episode number 4, Sean. You've done this 3 times before.
Yes.
And each time, it's been a nail-biter. Like, there's never been one where you've been blown out, and there's never been one where you've swept it. You've come close. You've never swept it. And,
That's pressure now.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I look forward to this just completely for the competitive nature of it. Although, and I'm not going to repeat myself as much as usual, but I will tell you this, Sean. We've looked into the statistics, and because of the public service announcements I've been giving week to week, I can say right now, wagering is down 35%.
That's good. Good to hear.
No one lost their house because of the last show. Nobody. There were a couple of broken thumbs, but that was about it.
Okay.
But again, folks, let's just enjoy this and don't bet the farm on it. Okay, Sean, are you ready?
I am ready, sir.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with a good one. This is one I really enjoyed researching, actually. Question number 1. All 4 members of Evolution have won the Royal Rumble, have also defeated The Rock, but all 4 have also lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And when I'm talking about Evolution, of course, I'm talking about Triple H, Ric Flair, Batista, and Randy Orton. And let me just repeat that for you. All 4 have at one time won the Royal Rumble, defeated The Rock, and lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Is that Kayfabe or is that Kayfake?
You gotta help me. When did The Rock and Triple H... Oh, wait a minute.
Triple H beat The Rock several times during their long feud.
At WrestleMania?
No, that wasn't at WrestleMania. Do you want me to reread it?
Wait, reread it.
All 4 members of Evolution have won the Royal Rumble, defeated The Rock, but have also all lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Okay, so yes, that's all kayfabe. That's all true.
I'm going to give it to you, Sean. I looked at the judges and they're nodding their head vigorously. We're going to give you that. Kayfabe, you got it, buddy. Okay, now, question number 2. Tommy Lister, better known as Zeus, during his early 90s feud with Hulk Hogan, is related to both WWE Hall of Famer Booker T and C-list actor and musician Corey Feldman. I will just tell you this. The relation to Corey Feldman is by marriage. Is this Kayfabe or Kayfake?
I'm going to say that's Kayfabe because I know Booker had a lot of family members, so that is entirely plausible.
I'm sorry, buddy. I faked you out on that one.
Oh.
That's Kayfake. I thought the Corey Feldman reference would make it clear, but maybe it was so absurd that you just had to believe it.
Hollywood is weird, dude.
Hollywood is weird. Here's a good one for you, Sean. Question number 3. I think you'll like this one. Your brain's going to have to work a little bit on the dates here. Terry Funk made his professional wrestling debut the same year that The Undertaker was born. Kayfabe or Kayfake? Head scratcher, isn't it?
Taker's 50. Let's say that's Kayfabe.
You are correct, sir. Both things took place in 1965. The Undertaker was born, and Terry Funk made his professional wrestling debut. How does that sit with you, buddy?
I feel very old.
You feel old. How does Terry Funk feel?
Yeah, no kidding. I've been digging through the archives on the network, and I've seen a lot of Terry Funk stuff lately. And see what he looked like even in his 40s. And in this things in the 1980s and beyond. He still was wrestling really well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Terry Funk just has it. He can pull it off regardless of what's going on. But I think it's really absurd to think that Terry Funk's wrestling career has been as long as The Undertaker's life.
Absolutely.
Insane. Question number, what are we up to? Number 4. Okay, question number 4. We all know that Brock Lesnar broke The Undertaker's streak in 2014, but did you know that in 2008, Vince McMahon seriously considered having Edge break the streak? Kayfabe or Kayfake?
Let's say that's Kayfake.
You are correct, sir. I faked you out on that one as well. I don't think anyone ever considered having Edge break it. I think back in 2008, The Undertaker was too hot. and I don't think Vince would have considered it. But
I remember there was talk when Randy Orton was doing the Legend Killer gimmick.
yeah.
WrestleMania 22. I know that there was talk very heavily at that point that Randy was going to be the guy, and it made perfect sense.
I think at the time it did. I don't know what would have happened if they did, but...
well, Randy got hurt before, so they had to go to a different finish.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right, question number 5, Sean. You're doing really well. I mean, you've already got 3 out of 6. So you've cleared it. You've cleared it. The question now is, how far are you going to take this, buddy? How far are you going to ride the ride today? Here is question number 5. You'll remember the infamous Hell in a Cell match between Mick Foley and The Undertaker. We're on an Undertaker topic today, I guess.
Well, we're getting close to Halloween. It's October.
That's true. You remember that great match, though, Sean? I'm sure you do.
Yes.
When Foley came crashing through the roof, he was tended to by a physician, a very famous physician who also showed up with him in the Beyond the Mat documentary. That fellow's name was Francois Petit, Dr. Francois Petit. Did you know, Sean, that he also played the character of Sub-Zero in 1995's video game movie Mortal Kombat? Is that Kayfabe or Kayfake?
I gotta say that's Kayfake.
My friend, that is Kayfabe. Francois Petit, as well as being a doctor, is also a martial arts expert who played Sub-Zero in 1995's Mortal Kombat. That's a right, buddy. You've got 3 right already, 2 wrong. What we have to see now on this final one is if you can kind of go above the cutoff point, or if you're just going to hit even. Yeah. Question number 6, Sean. Brace yourself for this one. You're going to have to think a little bit and go back into the memory archives, but I think you can do it. Question number 6. Since signing his contract in 2004, Dolph Ziggler has never had a one-on-one singles match at WrestleMania. Kayfabe or Kayfake?
2004.
Now, he was signed in 2004. He didn't start competing in 2004.
No.
We're just trying to put for reference here that this is over, a 12-year span. He has never had a singles match on the WrestleMania main card.
I didn't think about this quickly. I believe you're right. I believe that's Kayfabe.
You are right, sir. You are going to go 4 for 2. That is absolutely true. Dolph Ziggler has either been in tag team matches or multi-man matches since making his debut in 2004 at WrestleMania.
Ooh, really? Yeah. And here's the sad thing. If rumors are true, he's never going to have one.
I know. And isn't that sad? Because
That's sad.
I was not a huge Dolph Ziggler fan at first. It took a while for me to warm up to him. But when I did, I really do like him, and I do think he's made a huge contribution, particularly, over the last few months, trying to hold up his end of the SmackDown roster. So, for Ziggler, let's hope that isn't true, and he does get a match down the road at WrestleMania.
Well, if he's no longer going to be a full-time performer, maybe there's concussion issues or some other health issues. I read online that he's 36. I didn't realize he was that old, number one, when I read that the other day. Yeah. Secondly, I know he's had a whole bunch of little knee issues and issues with concussions and things of that nature. So I wonder if that might be contributing to maybe not being a full-time guy.
Yeah, well, you know what? Our good friend Luke Force has always pointed out that Dolph's style was going to be the end of him. That he was just too physical and that he was threw himself around too much like Mr. Perfect did back in the day, and that it was going to cost him. And maybe there's truth to that. I don't know.
Sad to think about if that's true. And then I got flashbacks to the Spirit Squad.
The Spirit Squad, who they rolled out somewhat on SmackDown
this week.
That was a very strange thing to say. I'm sure that's something Dolph doesn't want to really remember.
No.
But good luck to Dolph. Congratulations to you, Sean, for clearing another episode of Kayfabe or Kayfake.
Thank you very much, sir.
You are becoming a master of this.
I try very hard.
If wrestling trivia was an Olympic sport, I think you would be a gold medal finalist.
Thank you very much. Which it was. Might be the only way I get to an Olympics at this point.
Well, listen, buddy, we're going to go in a minute, but there's one thing we want to talk about. We're going to take a very brief look at CM Punk's very brief MMA debut, and I'm not taking shots at Punk. You know how much I like him. A lot of people didn't like that he had a big mouth. I always thought Punk spoke the truth about the product when it was super stale. And I respect him for making that crossover to MMA. Didn't really go the way he'd hoped.
No, it did not.
Do you remember how long the match was?
I want to say like 90 seconds.
Yeah, it didn't last long, did it?
No.
And he really got schooled. You know, it was very true. You could really tell that it was his debut. But I mean, what do you expect a guy who's never had an amateur or professional match having to have his debut on pay-per-view? I don't know what anyone would have been thinking.
Well, but the comparison that everybody's going to make is Brock Lesnar had never had an amateur MMA fight either. When he debuted, and he almost knocked somebody out.
Well, that's true, but Brock Lesnar was a different beast, and Brock Lesnar had a very extensive amateur wrestling background to build on.
Very true.
What do you think is going to happen with Punk going forward from this point? Do you think we'll see him in the... He says he'll be back, but I know Dana White was pretty adamant about the fact that he should not be in UFC until he's had a few more matches under his belt. What do you think is going to happen with Punk?
Well, here's the thing I questioned about. We make the comparison to Brock Lesnar, but Punk is much older than Lesnar was when he started.
Yeah.
And Punk clearly is not the athlete that Lesnar was, the athletic freak that Lesnar legitimately is.
Yeah.
I don't know if UFC really wants him to have another fight. I know that Bellator, they might keep him locked down to a contract because Bellator would snatch him in a heartbeat, or anybody else would snatch him up. But I'm like, I don't necessarily think he can't go back to the WWE until the lawsuit with the doctor is dealt with, which has yet to be dealt with. And I don't really know if I don't believe he's viable as an MMA fighter. I just don't.
I don't know. I mean, I would like, for his own sake, I would like to see him continue a couple matches and get a win or two in there just to kind of say he did it and something good happened. I would hate for this to be the full extent of what he does in MMA. But at the same time, nobody needs to get hurt, just for the sake of this. And you're right. He's a little too old to be a dominant figure, you would think, but I guess we shouldn't say that. Who knows?
Well, I understood putting his first fight on pay-per-view. I understood the draw that CM Punk is because you got wrestling fans like us who don't watch mixed martial arts to watch it and talk about it. And some of them even paid for this fight. So from that end, and that's what UFC does. Because you can't have Ronda Rousey on every card.
Yeah.
The one thing about UFC right now is they lack stars.
Yeah. I think they were hoping that Punk would do better than he did, so they could at least roll him out for a few more shows. But I think it's time to start at a lower level, get some wins under his belt, get some experience, and I'd love to see him back. But I do wish him the very best of luck. I think it took tremendous guts to do what he did.
Yeah, I agree.
Tremendous guts. So, CM Punk, we know you listen to the show. As if. But CM Punk, if you're listening to the show, you have my respect. Listen, guys, I think we are done now, Sean. I think we've covered what we need to cover. I think we've hit on all the main stuff. The really exciting thing is that there's so much more coming down the pipe.
Oh, awesome. Well, and I know this is something I want to tease because you and I have talked about this. As we approach a Canadian holiday this weekend, your big day isn't necessarily this weekend.
Yeah.
Your big day is next Tuesday.
My big day is next Tuesday. I'm getting through Thanksgiving this weekend, here, Canadian Thanksgiving, but I'm mostly excited about the release of WWE 2K17, which comes out on October the 11th. And I shelled out the big bucks for the NXT edition, so I'll have Nakamura on the first day rather than everyone else who has to wait for him to come out in the DLC pack. I'm super excited, and I really think it was a really good idea that we got the show out of the way when we did now, because I will likely not be doing
anything for about 2 weeks.
For about 2 weeks.
But the next time that we get together to talk to the people, I do want to talk about your experiences with WWE 2K17, because I also know that you like to go in and tweak things. We've talked about this before. You like to go in and tweak movesets and do things, and I'll be very curious to see how much tweaking you have to do.
Well, you know what? Every time I get the game, I always end up tweaking it to some extent because I enjoy it. Not necessarily because it needs it, but the movesets are so deep and there's so many options. I get super excited about that. So I am excited. Generally, and I mean, it drives my kids nuts because they just want to sit down and play. But generally, when I get the game, I'll spend a couple of hours tweaking the movesets of the guys I want to be before I even start playing as them, and it drives everyone crazy. But I'll try not to do it this year.
You say this now, but I'm sure when I get a hold of you in about a week or so after this is done, I'll get a totally different story. But I hope that we can come back in a few weeks and you can share that experience with everyone, because I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that, as am I as well.
I absolutely am, my friend, and I will keep you posted. And yes, we will cover that on our very next show. And you know what else? I'm going to try to say that if my voice heals up faster, then we won't be waiting quite as long before we do the next show. I'd like to get these coming out a little more regularly, just simply because there's so much to talk about now that when we finally do a show, when we finally do a show, it's like, wow, we've got, insane amounts of stuff to cover.
Always, always, always.
Anyway, my friend, thank you for coming out and for lending your expertise and for giving credibility to this show. Thank God.
I do what I can to add credibility. I always enjoy it. It's always fun. And the other thing I know that I should mention, at some point in the near future, I don't know when this is going to happen, but I'm going to push for it. Your brother, Luke Force, and I got into a very heated discussion about Brock Lesnar and his merits.
Exactly.
To WWE. And he promised me that we're going to do this on the air. Because we want to have this back. We said, we'll do it all over the text messages that we want. But we said, we're going to have it on the air one day.
You know what I'm going to say, Sean? I think what we should do is, rather than having Luke come in on an episode of a regular episode of the show, we should just do a special edition where that's the only topic.
Yes.
We'll talk about that. It'll be a shorter show, but I think it would be nice to have it focused. And so let's just gun for that.
Let's try for that as well.
Sometime in the near future, we'll be doing that.
The Brock Lesnar evaluation program.
And just remember, folks, if you're looking for a bit of drama, family relationships could be severed as a result of this discussion. That's how heated it gets.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Exactly. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Sean, thank you so much for being here. And, folks, please join us again very, very soon, either for our next regular episode of The Run-In Show or the Brock Lesnar Merit Special, which will be coming up soon. Have a good night, everybody.
The Run-In Show has been recorded in front of a live, simulated audience. Music by Audionautics.com. This has been a Rush Donahue production.